feeling like you're giving everything and still coming up empty? It's a brutal reality, isn't it? You love them with every ounce of your being, giving, caring, sacrificing, yet the more you pour yourself into them, the further they pull away. It's like you're trapped in a cycle of rejection that you can't escape, no matter how much you try to please them. You've lost count of how many times you've bent over backward, giving up your own dreams, your own identity and your own happiness, only to be left feeling abandoned and confused. But let me break it to you straight. The problem isn't your care, it's the way they see it. When you center your world around someone else, you think you're showing them love. But all they see is neediness. And let me tell you, neediness isn't attractive, it's repellent. The more you chase, the more they run. Here's a hard truth. Your kindness can become a burden if you give it away too freely. When you're constantly offering them your time, your energy, and your love, they start to feel suffocated, not cherished. Think of it like this. When you're thirsty on a scorching day and someone hands you a bottle of water, it's life-saving. But if they keep shoving bottle after bottle into your hands, the refreshing turns into overwhelming. The more you give, the less they appreciate it. So why do they pull away? Because when you're constantly giving, they stop seeing you as a powerful, independent person and start seeing you as someone who needs them to survive. And that's not a position of strength. The more you rely on others for validation, the more they see you as weak. And when you're weak, you're not attractive. But here's the real secret to turning this around. Stop chasing. Stop trying to prove your worth. Your value is not up for negotiation. You were not born to beg for attention, affection, or approval. You don't have to convince someone to love you. You're not a project, you're a masterpiece. And masterpieces don't beg for appreciation, they command it. Let me give you an example. Think of a lion. Does a lion chase its prey? Does it beg for respect? Number. It stands tall, exuding power and confidence. It knows its worth. And when the prey sees that, it doesn't have a choice but to run. Be the lion. When you stop chasing and start focusing on your own growth, people will notice what they've lost. And trust me, they'll regret it. I know what you're thinking, but I can't just stop caring. You don't have to stop caring. Care deeply, but care for yourself first. Love doesn't mean losing your identity or your dignity. It means knowing when to stand firm, when to walk away, and when to let your silence speak louder than your words. When you reclaim your power, the game changes. Your life becomes a magnet for the right people and the right energy. You won't have to convince anyone to stay because they'll see what they're missing, and they'll come back if they're wise enough. So here's your challenge. Start believing that you are enough. Not just in your head, but in your heart. Say it. Type it. I am enough. Drop it in the comments right now and let those words echo in your soul. This is just the beginning. The truth you're about to uncover will change the way you look at love, relationships, and most importantly, yourself. You are the prize. It's time to stop playing small, stop begging for scraps, and start living like you know your worth. If you're ready to discover the psychology behind why they push you away and how to reclaim your power, keep watching. This isn't just another video, it's a wake-up call. And the next move? It's yours. So drop that "I am enough" in the comments if you haven't already, and get ready to take back control. Let's dive deep. Number 1. Attachment is a one-way ticket to rejection. Attachment is a one-way ticket to rejection, and here's why. You've been there, right? You give them everything, your heart, your time, your soul, hoping they'll see the love you're pouring out. But instead of growing closer, they pull away. Ever wonder why? Because attachment is not love. It's a dangerous trap that tricks you into thinking you're connecting when in reality, you're suffocating them. Think of it like this. You have a flame, burning bright, full of potential. Now what happens if you throw too much kindling on it? You don't make it burn hotter, you extinguish it. That's what attachment does. It douses the spark of attraction with an avalanche of need. The more you cling, the more they slip away. Why? Because nobody wants to feel like they are someone's entire universe. That's not love, it's pressure. And pressure is always a deal breaker. Let's get real for a second. People are not attracted to neediness. They're attracted to confidence, independence, and strength. The more you desperately cling to someone, the more you reveal your own emptiness. It's like showing someone you have no life of your own, no passions or pursuits. You're not presenting yourself as a complete person. You're presenting yourself as someone who needs them to feel whole. And guess what? That's the opposite of attractive. Emptiness repels. There's a story I came across that hits this right on the head. A guy was head over heels for this girl, and within days of meeting her, he started rearranging his life for her, cancelling plans, texting her non-stop, always being available. At first, she seemed flattered, but after a while, she began pulling away. Replies got slower, plans were avoided, and the connection faded. When he confronted her, she told him straight up, "It feels like I can't breathe. You're always there, and it's too much." The harsh truth hit him. He had become her burden. Instead of giving her space to miss him, he smothered her with his constant presence. He wasn't showing his value, he was showing his desperation. Now here's the kicker. Attachment creates scarcity. It sends the message, "I have nothing else, so I'm putting everything into you." But that's not romantic. It's unsettling. Nobody wants to be someone's everything because it implies they're losing themselves in the process. People are drawn to those who are whole, who have their own lives, passions and goals. When you become everything to someone, you risk becoming nothing to them. So, how do you break free from this cycle? The answer is simple. Stop attaching and start living. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Love thrives in freedom, not in chains of dependency. When you stop chasing their approval and start building a life that's full, vibrant, and your own, you'll attract the kind of people who truly value you. Think of it like this. Attachment is like an anchor, heavy, immovable, and dragging you down. But when you let go of that anchor, you don't just free yourself. You create space for others to come closer. People move toward freedom. So let go of the desperation and be the person who stands tall, unshaken, confident in who they are. Be the lion that doesn't chase attention. It commands it. When you stop bending over backward to get noticed, that's when people start noticing you for who you truly are. Here's the harsh reality. Attraction isn't about begging or proving your worth with grand gestures. It's about living a life so magnetic, so full of purpose, that people can't help but be drawn in, and when they are, you won't have to convince them to stay. They'll see your value without you saying a word. So here's the challenge. Stop selling yourself. Start building yourself. Build your life, your passions, your self-respect, and let the right people gravitate toward that. The ones who don't get it, let them drift away. You don't need anyone to complete you. You are already whole. Say it with me now. I am enough. Drop it in the comments if you believe it. Own your worth. Own your power. Stop begging for attention and start living a life that demands it. This is just the beginning of the journey. Stick with me, because what you're about to learn will change everything you thought you knew about attraction, attachment, and self-worth. Let's dive deeper into this. Number 2, the trap of emotional decisions. The trap of emotional decisions. We've all fallen into it, haven't we? Emotions are intense, and when they take the wheel, they drive us straight into chaos without hesitation. In the heat of the moment, you've made decisions you thought were right, maybe out of desperation, fear, or hope, believing they'd fix everything. But instead, it all blows up in your face. They pull away even further, and now you're left in the aftermath, questioning, why did I let myself do that? Here's the harsh reality. When emotions are in control, you're not making decisions based on love. You're making them from a place of instability. Picture this. You're trying to build a house on unstable ground. No matter how strong the materials, the foundation can't hold. That's what emotional decisions do to relationships. It sends a message that you lack self-control. And if you can't handle your own emotions, how can you expect to be a reliable partner? If you can't keep your footing when life gets tough, how can they trust you to stay grounded for them? Think about all those times you've cancelled your plans to please them, sent that extra text when you were ignored, or exploded emotionally when they pulled away. You're handing over the reins of your worth to them, giving them the power to decide how you feel. And here's the kicker. Nobody respects someone who can't control their emotions. What they see isn't devotion, it's desperation, and desperation is a huge turnoff. Let me tell you a story that nails this truth. A woman posted online about her relationship with a man who would rearrange his entire life just to cater to her. If she mentioned she was stressed, he'd drop everything, no matter what he had going on. At first, she was flattered. He seemed to care so much. But over time, it felt like he was abandoning his own life just to keep her happy. Slowly, the weight of his emotional dependence became too much for her. She started to feel like she was carrying the emotional burden of both their lives. The truth hit her. He didn't respect his own boundaries, and eventually she couldn't respect him either. She walked away, not because she didn't care, but because his lack of emotional discipline was a red flag. The lesson here is brutal but true. Emotional decisions don't strengthen your relationships, they weaken them. They show you're letting fear or insecurity dictate your actions. And when people see you reacting out of impulse and desperation, they don't feel closer to you, they feel unsafe. They can't trust someone who can't trust themselves. So, how do you break free from this trap? How do you stop making emotional decisions that feel like they'll fix everything but only make it worse? It starts with pausing. Before you act, take a step back. When you feel the urge to send that text, make a call, or beg for their attention, stop yourself. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I making this decision from a place of strength or fear? Because most of the time, emotional decisions are just fear in disguise. Fear of rejection, fear of losing them, fear of being alone. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Your emotions are not the enemy, but letting them dictate your actions is. Your feelings are important. They're signals, not commands. Feel them, acknowledge them, but don't let them control you. You control you. That's where your true power lies, in mastering your emotions. Think about it. A strong mind doesn't follow the storm, it becomes the eye of the storm. It remains calm, clear, and focused, even when everything around them is chaotic. And that's magnetic. Strength is magnetic. When you choose logic over impulse, when you act with purpose rather than reaction, you build trust. And trust is what holds relationships together. But what if it's hard? What if every fiber of your being is screaming to react? Let it feel hard. Let it burn. That's where growth happens. Growth isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about leaning into it, pushing through it, and coming out stronger on the other side. Every time you feel the urge to make a decision from fear or desperation, remind yourself, I am in control. Drop it in the comments. I am in control. Because here's the truth. The moment you stop letting your emotions dictate your choices, you stop being a prisoner to them. You're the one steering the ship now. This is your turning point. Stop being tossed around by the waves and start becoming the calm within the storm. That's what they'll notice, and when they do, they won't forget it. This is just the beginning of your journey. The next step: mastering the art of emotional control, and I'll show you exactly how. Stick with me, because what comes next will change how you view relationships and how you show up for yourself. Let's dive deeper. Number 3. Why strength matters more than love. Why strength matters more than love. Here's a tough pill to swallow. Love, no matter how deep or pure, isn't enough. You can love someone with every ounce of your being, but if you lack strength, mental, emotional, and yes, even physical, that love will eventually wither. Love without strength is like a ship without an anchor. It drifts, it wavers, and before you know it, it sinks. Strength is what holds everything together. Think about it. When was the last time you were truly attracted to someone who couldn't handle life's hurdles? Someone who crumbled under pressure or collapsed at the first sign of a challenge? Probably never. Why? Because people don't gravitate toward weakness. They're drawn to those who can stand tall in adversity, who keep pushing forward even when the world feels like it's caving in. Love might spark the connection, but it's strength that keeps it burning. Let me break it down with a metaphor. Love is the sails on a ship. It gives direction. It's beautiful and full of promise. But strength is the hull, the structure. Without it, everything collapses when the storm hits. And guess what? Life always brings storms. Relationships are tested in the storms, not in the calm. People don't need someone who's perfect. They need someone who won't break when things get tough. Someone who has the resilience to face challenges and keep moving forward. Let me tell you a story I came across. A man opened up about how his relationship fell apart when his partner witnessed him spiral into emotional dependency. He lost his job, and instead of facing it head-on, he relied on her for everything: validation, support, even making decisions. He thought his vulnerability would draw them closer, but instead, it pushed her away. She finally told him, "I can't be strong for both of us. I need you to be strong for yourself." Here's the raw truth. People don't leave because you're vulnerable. They leave because you refuse to rise out of your vulnerability. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about how many times you get back up. It's about being able to handle your own struggles without dragging someone else into your chaos. That's what makes strength so magnetic. It signals stability, dependability, and growth. Love without strength is like a house of cards, fragile, unstable, and one breath away from falling apart. Strength is the foundation. It's what gives people the confidence to trust you, to rely on you, and to love you fully. But let me be clear. Strength isn't about being invulnerable or stoic. It's about balance. It's about having the emotional resilience to feel deeply without losing yourself in those emotions. It's about standing firm in the face of challenges and giving love without becoming dependent on it. That's what makes strength so powerful. It's not about building walls. It's about staying rooted, unshaken, and capable of weathering the storm. Love opens the door to connection, but strength keeps it standing. Remember this: you don't need to be invincible, but you do need to be unshakable. Not for them, but for yourself. Because if you can't respect and rely on your own strength, why should anyone else? If this feels impossible, good. That's where real transformation begins. Strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's built in the moments when you're on the edge of breaking but choose to keep going. It's forged in the times when giving up seems like the easier option, but you find the courage to push through. Strength is earned in the moments that challenge you the most. Every time you reach for someone else to hold you together, remind yourself, I am my own foundation. Say it loud. Say it proud. I am unshakable. Drop it in the comments. I am unshakable. Because the moment you truly own your strength is the moment your life and your relationships shift. Stop thinking love is enough. Stop waiting for someone else to complete you. Build your strength from within. Become the person they want to be with, not because you need them to survive, but because you've built a life so solid and powerful that they'll want to be part of it. That's why strength matters more than love. And that's why you'll never be forgotten. Number 4. Why trying too hard makes you invisible. Why trying too hard makes you invisible. Let's get real for a second. Effort is great, but over-effort, that's a relationship killer. You've been there, haven't you? You gave everything. You showed up at their beck and call, thought if you just did a little bit more, gave a little more, they'd finally see your worth. But instead of drawing them closer, you found them slipping away. Why? Because when you try too hard, you don't make yourself visible. You make yourself invisible. Think about it. Imagine a spotlight shining on you, illuminating your strength, your independence, and your confidence. Now picture yourself frantically waving your arms, jumping up and down, begging for attention. Does that look magnetic? Number you come off as desperate, needy, and honestly forgettable. Trying too hard is like a magician giving away the secret to the trick before the show even starts. There's nothing left to admire. Here's the brutal truth. People don't value what's shoved in their face. They value what feels earned, what feels worth the effort. When you overgive, overextend, and overplease, all you're saying is, I'll do anything to be noticed. And that, my friend, screams insecurity. It's not attractive. Let me share a story I read on a forum. A guy was completely smitten with a woman he was dating. He tried so hard to make her happy, showing up uninvited, bringing gifts all the time, agreeing with everything she said, rearranging his entire life just to fit into hers. At first, she appreciated the effort, but soon it began to feel suffocating. When she ended things, she said, "You never gave me the chance to miss you. You were always there too much." That's when he realized he hadn't been showing her love. He had been overwhelming her with it. The truth is, trying too hard eliminates the mystery. When you're always around, always available, always trying to please, you make yourself predictable. And predictability breeds boredom. People fall for the person who is a bit of a mystery, who leaves them wanting more, not the one who's always there, desperate to please. People are drawn to those who have their own life, their own passions, and the confidence to stand alone. Trying too hard is like overwatering a plant. At first, it seems like care, but soon you drown it. Relationships work the same way. They need balance, space, and room to grow. When you're constantly chasing or constantly proving yourself, you suffocate the very connection you're trying to build. So what's the solution? Stop chasing. Stop proving. Start focusing on simply being. When you're secure in who you are, when you show up as someone who doesn't need anyone else to feel complete, that's when you become magnetic. People notice when you walk into a room with calm confidence, a clear sense of purpose, and no desperate need for their attention. They can feel your energy shift, and that's the kind of presence that draws people in. Here's a powerful reminder. Respect is earned in your absence, not your presence. Let that sink in. It's not about how much you do for someone. It's about how they feel when you're not there. Do they miss you? Do they wonder about you? Or have you made yourself so available that there's nothing left to discover? If this feels tough, good. Growth is never easy. Every time you feel the urge to overextend yourself, take a pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm afraid they'll forget me if I don't? That's the line between confidence and insecurity. Choose confidence. Say it with me now. I let them come to me. Drop it in the comments. I let them come to me. Because here's the thing, the moment you stop chasing is the moment you become someone they can't ignore. Let them feel your absence. Let them wonder. That's the power of pulling back. That's how you stop being invisible and start being unforgettable. Number 5. Why they pull away in silence. Why they pull away in silence. It begins subtly. A text left unread, replies that get shorter. The enthusiasm in their voice starts to fade, like a dimming light. At first, you tell yourself it's nothing. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're dealing with something. But deep down, you feel it. Something's changed. They're pulling away. And they're doing it in silence. It's not loud or dramatic. It's not an angry confrontation. It's a slow, painful withdrawal that makes you second-guess everything. It leaves you in the worst kind of limbo, wondering, doubting, blaming yourself. But here's the thing. Silence isn't random. It's not a fluke. People don't suddenly pull away for no reason. When they go quiet, it's often because they're testing the waters. They're evaluating the relationship, taking stock of their feelings, and deciding whether they really want to stay. It's not that they're being cruel. It's that they're seeking clarity, and often they don't even realize how deeply their silence hurts you. Imagine a candle burning down to nothing. No grand explosion, no sudden flicker of light. It's just a soft, quiet fade, leaving only an empty wick. That's the reality of pulling away in silence. It's a gradual process, not a snap decision. It's built on unmet needs, unspoken doubts, or emotional overwhelm that has slowly piled up until they just can't hold it all in anymore. But here's the tough pill to swallow. Sometimes we contribute to the silence. Maybe you've been too persistent. Maybe you've put too much weight on the connection, on them, on the idea of the relationship. When someone feels smothered, they pull back. They don't always know how to explain it, because sometimes they don't even know why themselves. They're not trying to hurt you. They just need space to breathe. And their silence becomes the only way they know how to protect themselves. Take this real story from an online forum. A guy poured his heart into a relationship, planning dates, making sure he was always the one initiating, constantly giving. At first, everything was great. Then, he noticed she was pulling away. Instead of stepping back, he pushed harder. He texted more, made more plans, tried to do everything to win her back. But all his efforts only pushed her further away. One day she just stopped responding. Her silence wasn't sudden. It was the result of doubts she never shared, of feelings she didn't know how to express. It's a painful truth. You can't force someone to stay. Silence isn't an invitation to chase. It's a signal to reflect, a signal to let them process whatever it is that's making them pull away. Here's the hardest truth. Silence is not always about you. People need space to figure out what they want. Their silence may have nothing to do with your worth, but you'll never know until you give them the room to find their answers. When they pull away, the last thing you should do is panic and push harder. That only makes things worse. Instead, take a step back. Respect their space. Let them have the time they need to come to their own conclusions. If it's meant to be, they'll find their way back. But it's up to them to decide, and you need to give them the freedom to do so. Here's your mantra moving forward. I respect their space. Drop it in the comments. I respect their space. Because real strength isn't about holding on tighter. It's about knowing when to let go and trusting that what's meant for you will always find its way back. Number 6. It's all about how you make them feel. It's all about how you make them feel. Here's the truth no one likes to admit. People don't stay for what you do for them. They stay because of how you make them feel. It's not about checking boxes or being the perfect partner. It's not about looking flawless or saying all the right things. What really keeps someone coming back is the emotional experience you create, the way they feel when they're with you, the energy you bring, the spark you ignite. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who seemed like the dream partner on paper, smart, successful, charming, but you just felt meh? You left the conversation thinking, that was nice, I guess, but nothing more. Now think about someone who didn't hit all your criteria, but when they spoke, you felt alive, excited, even challenged. You couldn't wait to see them again. That's the difference. It's not the checklist, it's the emotion. Picture this, a roller coaster ride. It's not the tracks or the design that make it unforgettable. It's the rush of adrenaline, the excitement, the thrill. That's how relationships should feel. If every interaction with you feels predictable, safe, or too perfect, the spark will fade. But when they feel excitement, mystery, and even a bit of unpredictability, they'll keep coming back for more. Here's a real story from an online forum. A woman shared how she lost interest in a partner who was basically the perfect guy. He was polite, dependable, always available, but she felt nothing. She said, it was like dating a checklist. There was no spark. Then she talked about someone else, someone who didn't meet all her standards, but when she was with him, she couldn't stop laughing. She never knew what he was going to say next, and there was a thrill in every conversation. He wasn't perfect, but he made her feel something, and that's what made him unforgettable. Here's the real kicker. This isn't about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding that real relationships thrive on emotional connection. People fall in love not with the way you look or what you do for them, but with how you make them feel about themselves. If you make them feel alive, excited and seen, they'll want to stick around. If you make them feel bored, overwhelmed, or like just another item on your to-do list, they'll start to pull away. The truth is harsh, but it's crucial. Being predictable is the worst thing you can do. It's not safe. It's forgettable. If you're always there, always available, always doing what's expected, you'll blend into the background. Excitement and mystery aren't about creating drama. They're about creating depth. The people who hold your attention are the ones who make you feel something. They make you feel curious, seen, challenged, and that's what keeps you coming back. So, how do you create that emotional connection? Start with being present. Listen deeply, share moments that matter, and create experiences that feel real. Be the person who brings joy, ignites passion, and makes them feel like they're on a journey with you. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're fully alive yourself. Here's a quote to live by. People won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Every time you interact with someone, ask yourself, am I creating an experience they'll never forget? Am I adding something meaningful to their life? And when in doubt, remember this: I create unforgettable moments. Drop it in the comments. I create unforgettable moments. Because when you focus on how you make them feel, they won't just stay. They'll remember you, and they'll want more. Number 7. The magnetic power of mystery. The magnetic power of mystery. There's something electric about the unknown, isn't there? Think back to the last time you met someone who kept you guessing, someone whose energy, confidence, or just the way they carried themselves had you hooked. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but you couldn't look away. That's the magnetic power of mystery, the undeniable pull of a story still unfolding. When someone's life feels like an adventure with new chapters you haven't read yet, your curiosity kicks in. You can't help but want to know more. But when everything is laid out for you from the start, it's like picking up a book and immediately flipping to the last page. You already know the ending. And let's face it, Predictable is boring. Nobody remembers the story where the plot twists are non-existent. Here's the hard truth. When you make yourself an open book, revealing every thought, every feeling, and every detail, you don't create intimacy. You drain curiosity. Mystery is what keeps people intrigued. It's the magnetic force that makes them lean in closer, wanting to learn more. It's not about playing games. It's about being someone worth discovering. Imagine walking into a room with two doors in front of you. One is wide open, showing you everything inside, while the other is cracked just enough to make you wonder what's hidden behind it. Which one do you approach first? The one that leaves something to the imagination, right? That's the power of mystery. It draws you in by leaving just enough unsaid. I came across an incredible story online that highlights this perfectly. A guy shared how his dating life completely shifted once he stopped oversharing. In the past, he would spill his entire life out within minutes, his hopes, his fears, his struggles. He thought the more he shared, the closer they'd get, but instead, it just pushed people away. He was laying all his cards on the table too soon. Then he made a change. He started listening more, revealing less, and letting them wonder about his life. Suddenly, people were leaning in, asking questions, trying to figure him out. He became a mystery, and they couldn't resist learning more about him. The more curious they were, the more invested they became. Here's the key. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about revealing yourself in layers, giving just enough to keep them engaged, but leaving space for them to wonder, to want more. It's like a thriller movie that doesn't reveal all the twists at once. It builds suspense, keeps you on the edge of your seat, and leaves you hungry for the next clue. That's what makes it unforgettable. The secret to cultivating mystery isn't about playing it cool or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about living with purpose. Are you always chasing them, constantly available, or do you have a life of your own, full of passions and pursuits? When you're focused on your own journey, your goals, your growth, your adventure, you naturally create that magnetic energy. People are drawn to those with a life that's intriguing, a story that's still unfolding. You don't have to pretend to be interesting, you just have to be interesting by living fully. Here's a quote to carry with you. The unknown is always more alluring than the obvious. Let that guide your interactions. Keep parts of yourself private and let others discover you on their own terms. The more they have to uncover, the more they'll be captivated. And if you're worried they'll lose interest if you're not always available, remember this. Mystery isn't about playing hard to get. It's about creating balance. Be present, be engaged, but never be predictable. Share just enough to connect, but leave the rest for them to discover. That's where the real magic happens. So next time you feel the urge to overshare, ask yourself, am I adding to the connection or am I giving away too much? Pull back, let them lean in, and watch the dynamic shift. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's confidence in knowing you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Here's your affirmation. I am worth discovering. Drop it in the comments. I am worth discovering. Because when you live with purpose, hold your cards close, and let people wonder, you don't just attract them, you captivate them. That's the magnetic power of mystery. Number 8. The secret to turning the tables. The secret to turning the tables. Here's a truth that'll shake things up. The moment you stop chasing, you start winning. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But that's exactly where the magic lies. If you've ever found yourself constantly pursuing, always the one reaching out, giving, trying to prove your worth to someone, it's time to stop. Turning the tables isn't about playing hard to get or manipulating the situation. It's about reclaiming your own power and flipping the entire dynamic in your favor. Think about it. When you're the one chasing, you're putting them in control. You're giving them the power to decide if they'll give you the time, attention, or love you crave. But when you stop chasing, when you pull back and focus on your own life instead of desperately trying to hold on to theirs, you change the game. They start to wonder, they start to miss you, they feel the shift and begin to question if they might lose you. It's like a seesaw. When you're the one doing all the chasing, all the effort, it's like you're up in the air while they sit on the other side, unbalanced. But when you pull back and start investing in your own life, that seesaw evens out. They feel the weight shift, and suddenly the power dynamic is in your hands. That's how you turn the tables, not by playing games, but by showing them that you are the one who deserves respect, not the other way around. I read a post online where someone shared how their dating life completely flipped when they stopped doing all the work. They were always the first to text, to plan dates, to constantly pursue. But then they made a bold decision. They stopped. They didn't ghost or play hard to get. They simply refocused. They started spending time on their own passions, goals, and hobbies. Within weeks, the people who used to pull away came rushing back, suddenly curious about the shift in energy. Why? Because they realized they were no longer the center of attention, and that made them realize what they had before might just be slipping away. The truth is, they didn't change who they were. They just stopped giving away all their power. Turning the tables isn't about being indifferent or acting like you don't care. It's about creating balance. It's about showing them that your world doesn't revolve around them, that you have your own passions, your own journey, your own sense of self-worth. People are drawn to those who live confidently and independently, not those who desperately cling to others for validation. Here's a powerful quote to remember. When you walk away from what doesn't serve you, you walk toward what does. Let that sink in for a moment. Walking away doesn't mean burning bridges or slamming doors. It means stepping back, giving them space to decide if they want to be part of your world. When you stop chasing, you make room for them to come to you if they're truly interested, or for someone who does value you to step in. Either way, you're a winner. The tables turn not because you demand it, but because you embody it. Say this out loud: I hold the power. Drop it in the comments: I hold the power. Because the moment you realize your worth, the tables aren't just turned, they're tipped in your favor. And trust me, that's the secret. Live it. Own it. Watch everything in your life start to shift.